Couldn't agree more. I mean, one of the things that we obviously talk about at LiveLike is there's a lot of data. Organizations actually are sitting on a lot of data, but I don't think that has translated into intelligence just yet. Part of that is because a lot of the data sits in silos. There are disconnected pieces of the architecture. Obviously, you're trying to connect those. We're trying to act on those.
Yeah.
But do you think that's the biggest problem right now, in the sense that that disconnected data sets are not integrated into fan-facing products?
Absolutely. You can't activate until you unify. And that's the, and actually what does data unification mean? In the world of sport, it's very different to other customer verticals because the audience type means that you've got different, unifying your data to grow your business, which is what ultimately we're in the business of doing.
Yeah.
Means something completely different. So, in a customer data world, which is very fan revenue focused, you've got a rational customer who is price sensitive, who doesn't necessarily have loyalty to your brand, and you're trying to build loyalty. In the fan, you've already got that out of the box. You've got, ultimately, potentially, if you serve the individual correctly, you've got, a super passionate, very invested,
rather than any rational. Yeah.
And so what you're doing with that customer is very different, and how you drive value from it is very different. So, and the economic model is different because fundamentally, one is a fan revenue opportunity, and fundamentally in our world, our view is that actually the bigger piece of the pie is brand revenue. So ultimately, what you're doing with that data is different, but it's still at the core about unifying data to drive automation, and obviously what you guys do is to make that data, turn that data into a community, which is ultimately the essence of sport.
What does that look in practice, though? I think that's something that we've heard about it, we've talked about it, like a unified view of a fan. In practice, what does that look like, and why do a lot of organizations not have it? I understand that's the opportunity for Cortex, but in general, like, what is the missing link in your mind?
Well, I think if you look at the 10 years we've been doing this, the market has moved on a long way in terms of, having a look at your audience data, whether it's your ticketing data, which tends to be where you start, because that is the consumer-facing element of sport.
That's where most organizations have actually spent.
Exactly.
And the CRM for ticketing.
Ticketing is a really challenging data, challenge, opportunity, but challenge. Obviously, multi-vendors, multi-different ways of getting the data out. And so I guess a lot of work has gone into understanding the opportunity or insight from the data, but that's more of a consulting output.
Yeah.
Whereas, actually, if you're going to do something about it, you need to put your data in a position that you can activate it. And that means bringing all these data sources into a single place, ideally in real time, and then driving that data. So first of all, capturing the data in real time and driving the data to the right place in order to deliver value, whether it's LiveLike for your customer activation, or your marketing automation, etc. Everything needs to be a unified single source of truth.
You mentioned this actually a few times when we've talked before, but obviously that lends itself to like the difference between, you've said it, there's a difference between a customer data platform and a fan data platform. Can you explain that a little bit more?
Well, yeah, it really is. It's the nature of the individual. It's so a fan wants to belong, is very passionate about either the player or the team that they support. And therefore, the data that you're interested in may be very different from a purely rational, transactional based data proposition. So, and also that influences how you monetize. So, our view is that, our focus is much more on behavioral data. I mean, ticketing data is super important as a basis. Behavioral data, how you react to certain pieces of content, when you react to that content, how it's influenced by the result of the team or the player, whether specific articles or content on specific players activates you more than others, and this then informs, how you then serve that fan going forward. So behavioral data is a much more important part of the mix than pure transactional data. It doesn't negate the importance of transactional data, but it changes the emphasis of what you're doing in unifying the data sources and what data is important. And then the flip side of that is, our whole sort of mantra is we are capturing every fan interaction in order to create valuable trackable assets ultimately. So using the mechanics of digital, you can actually you can measure the performance of those interactions and turn that into a valuable asset from a brand campaign point of view, or indeed an internal marketing campaign for tickets or hospitality. So that's ultimately different type of data in, or different emphasis on the data in, and different economic model on the other side.
So you are essentially, I mean, if we just come down to like nuts and bolts of it, you're collecting more signals than a normal customer data platform might collect, which is more focused on transactional data, whereas here you're focusing more on what we said, the fan is a little bit more irrational, more emotional. You're getting that kind of data in as well.
Experiences. Like it's yes, it's behavioral. It's about how fans react to content and messaging, and therefore driving a revenue model which is which has had a greater emphasis on brand partnerships than on direct fan spend. Yeah.